My name is David Turner. I'm 34 years old, and I work as a freelance data analyst here in Seattle. Most people see me as the quiet type, methodical, observant, someone who keeps his cards close to his chest. They're not wrong. But what they don't realize is that growing up in a divided household taught me something valuable. Sometimes, the best strategy is to watch, wait, and let others reveal their true nature. My father, Robert, remarried when I was 10. His new wife, Karen, brought her 8-year-old son, Michael, into our home, and suddenly, we became what everyone called a blended family. On paper, it looked perfect. 2 boys, 2 parents, 1 happy household. But reality was different. From day one, I became the responsible one, the independent one, while Michael was the baby who needed constant attention and support. If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new, unreleased stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. The pattern started early and never stopped. When Michael wanted guitar lessons at 12, they signed him up immediately. When I asked about joining the school debate team at 14, my father said, "You're smart enough to figure things out on your own, son." Michael got new clothes every season. I learned to make my old ones last. Michael struggled with math, so they hired a tutor at $60 an hour. I taught myself calculus from library books because you've always been so self-sufficient, David, as Karen loved to remind me. I never complained, never threw tantrums. I just observed and adapted. By the time I was 16, I'd learned to expect nothing and prepare for everything. I got a part-time job at Best Buy, saved every penny, and paid my own way through community college before transferring to the University of Washington. Michael, meanwhile, had his college fund ready and waiting, $35,000, courtesy of Dad's careful financial planning. But the final insult came in December 2023. I was 32, established in my career, living in my own apartment in Capitol Hill. I still came home for holidays because, despite everything, they were family. Michael, now 25 and chronically underemployed, had been dropping hints about needing a car for months. His 2014 Honda Civic finally died, and he'd been using Uber and rideshare apps to get around. Christmas morning arrived with the usual chaos. Karen made her famous cinnamon rolls. The tree was perfectly decorated, and presents were stacked underneath in neat piles. Michael's pile was noticeably larger than mine, but that wasn't unusual anymore. I'd brought thoughtful gifts for everyone: a leather portfolio for Dad, a silk scarf for Karen, and wireless earbuds for Michael, since he was always complaining about his neighbors. Then came the big reveal. Dad and Karen exchanged one of those meaningful looks that married couples share when they're about to surprise someone. "Michael," Dad said, pulling out his iPhone to record the moment, "why don't you check the garage?" Michael's confusion turned to pure joy when he opened the garage door to find a brand new 2024 Honda Civic sitting there with a giant red bow on the hood. Metallic gray, fully loaded, the works. He actually cried. Karen cried. Dad beamed with pride. It was a beautiful family moment that probably cost them $26,000. My turn came last. Dad handed me a small envelope with a grin. "Don't say we never give you anything, David," he chuckled. Inside was a single Powerball ticket, the $2 kind you buy at gas stations, with a yellow Post-it note stuck to it. The note read, "Maybe you'll get lucky, huh?" in Karen's handwriting, followed by a smiley face. The room erupted in laughter. Even Michael joined in, wiping tears from his eyes as he said, "Oh man, that's perfect. David and his lottery ticket versus my new car." They found it hilarious. The responsible, independent older brother getting a joke gift while the baby of the family received something substantial and life-changing. I smiled. I even laughed along with them. But something cold settled in my chest that morning, something that had been building for 22 years. As I folded that lottery ticket and slipped it into my wallet, I made a mental note of this moment. The car versus the lottery ticket, the golden child versus the afterthought. I filed it away with all the other small humiliations and forgotten promises. What they didn't know, what they couldn't have known, is that I never throw anything away. 3 months later, In March 2024, while cleaning out my desk drawer, I found that crumpled lottery ticket and decided to check the numbers on a whim. Old habits from my data analyst training, I suppose. Always verify your information. The first number matched, then the second. By the third match, my hands were shaking. All 6 numbers aligned perfectly with the winning combination from that December 26th, 2023 drawing. I had just won $134 million. The first thing I did was absolutely nothing. I sat in my apartment for 3 hours, staring at that ticket, cross-referencing the numbers on my laptop. I checked the Washington State Lottery website, then the official Powerball site, then 3 different news articles about the unclaimed jackpot. Every source confirmed the same thing. Someone in Seattle had won the largest lottery prize in state history, and that someone was me. The second thing I did was call my lawyer, not a family friend or someone my father might know, but a corporate attorney I'd worked with on a freelance contract 2 years earlier. Jennifer Walsh specialized in business formation and asset protection for tech companies. She was discreet, thorough, inexpensive, exactly what I needed. Jennifer, this is David Turner. I need to set up a blind trust immediately. Like today, immediately. David, it's Saturday morning. What kind of blind trust are we talking about? The lottery-winning kind. The silence on her line lasted exactly 5 seconds. Then I'll meet you at my office in 2 hours. Don't sign anything. Don't tell anyone. And for God's sake, don't post anything on social media. By Monday, I had a legal structure that would make the CIA proud. The Cascade Holdings Trust claimed the prize, with Jennifer as the public trustee and me as the anonymous beneficiary. The lump sum payout, after federal and state taxes, came to just over $72 million. I invested $65 million in a diversified portfolio through 3 different firms, kept $4 million liquid, and used the remaining $3 million to completely restructure my life. But here's the thing about sudden wealth. It doesn't change who you are, it just amplifies it. I'd spent 24 years being careful, methodical, and invisible. Money didn't make me flashy. It made me more strategic. I kept my same Capitol Hill apartment, drove my same 2019 Toyota Camry, and maintained my freelance work. To everyone around me, including my family, nothing had changed. I was still responsible, independent David, making his modest living analyzing data for small businesses and tech startups. The only difference was the security I felt. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't worried about next month's rent or whether I could afford to replace my laptop if it died. I had options, leverage, and, most importantly, I had time to think. 3 months passed before the inevitable happened. The story had been in the Seattle Times for weeks. Mystery winner still silent on $134 million jackpot. Local news stations ran human interest pieces about lottery fever in the city. Everyone was speculating about who might have won, where they bought the ticket, why they were staying anonymous. My phone rang on a Thursday evening in June 2024, Dad's name on the caller ID. "Hey son, how are you doing?" This was unusual. Dad typically communicated through text messages and only called for emergencies or holidays. We exchanged the normal pleasantries. Work was good, weather was typical Seattle summer. I was staying healthy. Then Karen's voice joined the conversation. They put me on speaker. "David, honey, we were just talking about that lottery winner story. Can you believe someone in Seattle won all that money and hasn't come forward?" "Interesting," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Probably smart to stay quiet. That much money changes everything." "Oh, absolutely," Dad agreed. "Though, I bet they're going crazy trying to decide what to do with it all. I mean, what do you even do with that much cash?" Michael's voice came through in the background. "I buy a house first thing, get out of this tiny apartment." That's when I understood they weren't calling to chat about current events. They were fishing. Somewhere in their collective consciousness, they'd started wondering about their data analyst son, who never seemed worried about money, who always seemed to have whatever he needed without drama or complaints. "Well," I said carefully, "I imagine whoever won has some big decisions to make." Speaking of big decisions, Karen jumped in with poorly concealed excitement. "Michael has some news to share." Michael took the phone. "David, I proposed to Sarah last weekend." She said yes. Sarah was Michael's girlfriend of 2 years, a nursing student at Seattle University. Nice girl. Practical. Exactly the kind of person who'd be good for my chronically irresponsible half-brother. Congratulations, Michael. That's wonderful news. Thanks, man. We're thinking about a fall wedding. Nothing too crazy, but you know how these things go. Venue, catering, all that stuff adds up fast. He paused meaningfully. We're trying to figure out the budget. And there it was, the real reason for this call. They'd connected the dots. Mystery lottery winner in Seattle. David lives in Seattle. David never seems stressed about money despite being a freelancer. Therefore, David must be the lottery winner. And if David was suddenly worth over $100 million, well, surely he'd want to help his baby brother start married life properly. I'm sure you two will figure something out, I said. Sarah seems like a planner. She is, but there's only so much planning you can do when you're working with a limited budget, Michael continued. I've been thinking maybe it's time I ask for some family help. For something this important. That sounds like a conversation for you and Dad. Actually, Dad interjected. We were all hoping we could talk this through together. Maybe this weekend, you could come over for dinner. We could discuss how the family might support Michael and Sarah as they start this new chapter. The family. As if I'd ever been consulted about family financial decisions before. As if my input had ever mattered when Michael needed guitar lessons or college tuition or a car to replace his dead Honda. This weekend's not great for me, I said. Pretty busy with client work. The weekend after then, Karen pressed. David, this is important. Michael is getting married. I could hear the frustration creeping into her voice. They'd expected immediate enthusiasm, offers to help, maybe even a spontaneous revelation about my lottery win. Instead, they were getting the same measured, non-committal responses I'd given them for years. Let me check my calendar and get back to you, I said. After I hung up, I sat in my living room and considered my options. I could continue playing dumb indefinitely. I could reveal the truth and watch them scramble to retroactively justify 22 years of favoritism. Or I could do something else entirely. I opened my laptop and started drafting an email. Not to send immediately, but to have ready when the right moment arrived. Because if there's one thing data analysis teaches you, it's that patterns always repeat themselves. My family had established a clear pattern of taking me for granted while prioritizing Michael's needs and wants. They were about to discover what happened when that pattern finally broke. 2 weeks later, they stopped being subtle. Michael called me directly on a Tuesday afternoon, his voice carrying that familiar wheedling tone I remembered from our childhood whenever he wanted something. Hey, David, I've been thinking about our conversation with Dad and Karen, about the wedding planning and everything. Look, I'm just going to be straight with you. Sarah and I have been looking at venues, and the prices are insane. The place we really love wants $15,000 just for the rental, and that's before food, flowers, photography, all of it. We're looking at maybe $50,000 total for the kind of wedding Sarah deserves. I said nothing. In my experience, silence makes people reveal more than they intended. The thing is, Michael continued, I know you're doing well. Your freelance thing seems to be working out, and you've always been smart with money. I was wondering if maybe you could help us out. Not a gift or anything, unless you want it to be, but maybe a loan. We could pay you back over time. How much are we talking about? Maybe $25,000. That would cover the venue and the photographer. Sarah's parents are handling the flowers in her dress, and I've got the catering covered. $25,000. To Michael, this was probably an enormous ask, a sum that represented months of careful saving. To me, it was less than I'd made in interest the previous week. But it wasn't about the money. It had never been about the money. That's a significant amount, Michael. I know, and I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. This is Sarah, she's the one. And after everything with Mom and Dad helping me out over the years, I just thought maybe it was time for me to stand on my own feet a little more, but with help from my big brother. Help from my big brother. The irony was suffocating. 22 years of being told I was self-sufficient, and now suddenly I was expected to be the family bank. Let me think about it, I said. Really, David? That would be incredible. I was nervous even asking. I said I'd think about it. The next call came from Karen 3 days later. David, honey, I hope you don't mind me reaching out directly. Michael mentioned he talked to you about the wedding situation. He did. I want you to know how much it would mean to him, to all of us, if you could find a way to help. Michael's finally found someone who makes him happy, someone who's good for him. Sarah's a lovely girl, very grounded, very practical. She's exactly what Michael needs. I'm sure she is. The truth is, your father and I have been talking, and we realize we may have been, well, we may have expected too much independence from you over the years. You were always so capable, so self-reliant. Maybe we didn't show our appreciation for that as much as we should have. This was new territory. Karen had never come close to acknowledging the family's treatment of me before, but I recognized it for what it was, not genuine remorse, but strategic positioning. They needed something from me now, so suddenly my independence was praiseworthy rather than convenient. I appreciate you saying that. We've also been wondering, and please don't take this the wrong way, but you seem very comfortable lately, more relaxed about money than you used to be. Your father mentioned you haven't asked about borrowing anything in years, and you even picked up the check when we went to dinner last month. There it was, the direct probe I'd been expecting. Freelance work has been steady. That's wonderful, really wonderful. And if business has been especially good, well, that just makes us even more proud of you. You've always been the responsible one, the one who figures things out. Maybe now you're in a position to help Michael figure this out too. I ended the call with another non-committal promise to consider it. But that evening, I finished the email I'd been drafting and scheduled it to send the following Monday morning. Monday arrived, and at exactly 9 a.m., my carefully crafted message landed in all three of their inboxes simultaneously. The subject line read, regarding Michael's wedding request. The email was professional, methodical, and devastating. I started with a chronological review of family financial decisions dating back to my childhood. Guitar lessons for Michael, debate team denial for me, college tuition fully paid for Michael, community college and loans for me, car purchase for Michael, lottery ticket joke for me. I included specific dates, amounts when I knew them, and direct quotes from conversations I'd recorded in my personal journals over the years. Not because I planned this moment, but because documenting patterns was simply how my mind worked. I want to be clear, the email continued, that I don't resent these decisions. Parents make choices based on their perception of their children's needs and capabilities. You consistently viewed me as self-sufficient and Michael as someone who required more support. That assessment shaped 2 decades of resource allocation in our family. Then came the revelation. Last December, you gave me a lottery ticket as a Christmas gift. You found it amusing to contrast Michael's car with my $2 ticket. I found it illuminating. That ticket won $134 million. After taxes and legal fees, I now manage approximately $72 million in assets. I let that sink in for a paragraph break. Michael has asked me to loan him $25,000 for his wedding. This represents roughly 0.03% of my current net worth, essentially a rounding error in my monthly investment returns. The answer is no. The next section methodically explained why. This decision isn't based on the amount requested or my ability to pay. It's based on the principle that patterns, once established, tend to perpetuate themselves. For 22 years, you taught me that I should expect no help, no safety net, and no consideration for my needs or wants. You taught me self-reliance, not as a virtue, but as a necessity. I concluded with crystal clarity. I learned those lessons well. Michael's wedding is Michael's responsibility, just as my education, my career, and my financial planning were mine. I will not be contributing to the wedding, the honeymoon, or any future requests for assistance. This decision is final and non-negotiable. The email included one final touch, a PDF attachment containing photocopies of the original lottery ticket, the winning number announcement, and the official claim documentation from the Washington State Lottery, labeled for verification purposes. I sent copies to all 3 of them, then turned off my phone and went for a walk around Green Lake. By the time I got home 2 hours later, I had 47 missed calls and over 100 text messages. The pattern had finally broken. The first phase of their response was exactly what I'd predicted. Shock, followed by desperate attempts at damage control. Dad's voicemails ranged from stunned, "David, we need to talk about this immediately," to pleading, "Son, I think there's been a misunderstanding," to almost threatening. "This is family, David. Family doesn't abandon family." Karen's texts were pure emotional manipulation. "How can you be so cruel to Michael? He's your brother. This is his wedding day we're talking about. Money isn't everything, David. Love and family should matter more than some old grudges." Michael himself went through the entire grief cycle in digital format. Denial. "There's no way you actually won that much money and didn't tell us." Anger. "You're really going to let me struggle with my wedding because of some petty stuff from when we were kids?" Bargaining. "Look, forget the 25,000. Could you just help with 15, 10, anything?" I didn't respond to any of it. Not the calls, not the texts, not the increasingly frantic emails. I'd said everything I needed to say in that first message. Anything more would just be commentary. But I did watch, and what I saw was fascinating from a behavioral analysis perspective. Within a week, Michael had started a GoFundMe campaign titled, "Help Michael and Sarah Start Their Dream Life Together." The description was masterfully crafted to sound sympathetic without revealing the embarrassing truth. We're a young couple trying to plan our perfect wedding on a tight budget. Every contribution, no matter how small, brings us closer to our dream day. The campaign raised $1,247 in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, word was spreading through our extended family and social circles. Not because I said anything, but because they couldn't help themselves. Aunt Rebecca called me after apparently receiving a very interesting phone call from Karen. "David, honey, Karen told me the most remarkable story about you winning the lottery. She seemed quite upset about some family situation. Are you all right?" "I'm fine, Aunt Rebecca. Better than fine, actually. She mentioned something about Michael's wedding and you not being able to help. I'm sure there's more to the story." "There always is," I thought, but I kept it simple. Michael's wedding planning is between Michael and Sarah. I'm not involved. Similar conversations happen with family, friends, former neighbors, even Michael's college roommate who somehow got my number. Each call revealed how the story was spreading and evolving. In some versions, I was a heartless millionaire who'd abandoned my struggling family. In others, I was the victim of decades of favoritism who'd finally reached his breaking point. The truth, as usual, was more complex than either narrative. 6 months after my email, in February 2025, Michael and Sarah had a small ceremony at a community center in Ballard. 50 guests, potluck reception, Sarah's cousin as the photographer. By all accounts, it was lovely, intimate, personal, focused on what actually mattered. They looked happy in the photos I saw on Instagram. I wasn't invited. That was fine by me. Around the same time, I made the first major change to my lifestyle. I bought a house in Portland. Not a mansion, but a comfortable craftsman in the Alberta district with a home office, a small garden, and, most importantly, 280 miles between me and my family's ongoing drama. I also launched the Turner Foundation, focused on educational scholarships for first-generation college students from blended families. Kids who'd learned early that they couldn't count on anyone but themselves, who developed resilience out of necessity rather than choice. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was using Michael's joke gift to help other overlooked children in ways my family had never helped me. The foundation's first recipient was Maria Santos, an 18-year-old from Yakima whose stepfather had spent her college fund on his biological son's wedding. She was planning to work full-time and attend community college part-time until she could afford a transfer to a 4-year school. I changed that plan. Full ride to the University of Washington, plus living expenses and book allowances. When she tried to thank me at the scholarship ceremony, I just smiled and said, "Pay it forward someday." Nearly 2 years have passed since that Christmas lottery ticket changed everything. Dad still sends birthday cards with generic messages about hoping I'm well. Karen occasionally likes my LinkedIn posts, which I assume is her version of an olive branch. Michael and Sarah had a baby in July, a daughter they named Emma, and Sarah's mother posts pictures constantly on Instagram. I know about Emma because I still follow them on social media, not out of longing or regret, but because patterns interest me, and I'm curious to see how this new generation develops. Will Emma be raised with the same favoritism that defined Michael's childhood? Will she learn that love comes with conditions and expectations? Or will parenthood teach Michael something about fairness that his own upbringing couldn't? I hope, for her sake, it's the latter. These days, I work with small nonprofits and social service organizations, using my data analysis skills to help them maximize their impact. The pay isn't spectacular, but money stopped being the point sometime around my 10th million in assets. Purpose matters more now. I've also started dating again, Jennifer Walsh. Actually, my lawyer turned financial advisor turned something more interesting. She understands the value of building something slowly, carefully, with clear boundaries and mutual respect. She never asks about my family, and I never ask about her ex-husband. We're both old enough to know that some stories are better left in the past. Last month, I received an unexpected email from Michael, not asking for money this time, but something potentially more valuable, acknowledgement. David, he wrote, I've been thinking a lot about our childhood lately. Maybe because Sarah's pregnant. Maybe because I'm finally growing up. I realize I got advantages you didn't, and I never questioned why or whether that was fair. I'm sorry for that. I'm also sorry for how we handled the lottery situation. We assumed you owed us something because we were family, but we never considered what we owed you. He didn't ask for reconciliation or relationship repair. He didn't suggest we start over or put the past behind us. He simply acknowledged reality and accepted responsibility for his part in it. It was perhaps the most mature communication I'd ever received from him. I haven't responded yet. I'm not sure I will. Some apologies deserve acceptance. Others deserve consideration. Some deserve nothing at all. This one falls somewhere in the middle. But I kept the email, filed it away with the lottery ticket, the Christmas photos, and all the other documentation of our shared history, because patterns matter, and this might represent the beginning of a new one. Or it might just be another attempt to get something from me. Time will tell. What I know for certain is this. That $2 lottery ticket taught me something worth more than $134 million. It taught me that justice doesn't always look like revenge. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes it looks like building something new instead of tearing something old down. And sometimes, if you're very patient and very strategic, it looks like watching people finally understand the consequences of their own choices. If you enjoyed this story, like this video and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.